Welcome to feedbackthemagazine.com. I'm your host, Sonny Pinkney, and I have here with me today serial entrepreneur and Seattle native and Howard alum, Miss Reka Robinson.
FeedbackTheMagazine.com is a Black-owned, Black-operated news outlet. We don't exhibit the same principles that the mainstream media has. We are our own entity.
So it depends on your niche or niche, some people, whatever. So there are different kinds of life coaches. So what I do is I help women discover their worth so that they can stop tying their worth and identity to men and stop being a man pleaser. So what I help obviously I walk my clients through that. And I always tell them I'm here as your coach to hold you accountable to the things that you say you want to do, right? So it's just like a basketball coach. Michael Jordan needed a basketball coach, right? And he was there to hold them accountable to the things you say you want to do. You say you want to win this game. Well, this is how we're going to do it, and give them a strategy of doing that. So I see myself as the same thing. Like I'll be your, what is their Phil Jackson?
Phil Jackson, yeah.
There we go. Look, I know that. So yeah, like I'm here to be your Phil Jackson for sure. If you are a woman who feels like you have tied your identity to men your whole life, you're in the revolving door of dysfunctional relationships and you're sick of that, I believe that I came up with a program and a formula that will stop that dead in its tracks.
Okay, so what is your overall goal as a life coach, like 5-10 years down the line? Do you want to write write a book, which we'll get into later?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, okay. So in the bucket of working with my clients, I want to just help as many single women get to a place where they understand that singleness is not a punishment. That's not even biblical. I feel like in the religious spaces, being single is the worst thing to be on this planet, which is not biblical. So in that bucket, I just want to help as many women that allow me to help them get to a place where they understand that they are worthy, regardless of their relationship status. In the, successful bucket as a coach, definitely have a book coming. And I just keep telling people, as much as I loved radio, and I'm still in radio part-time, but I started at Howard actually in radio, and that's really been my life for 20 years. But I have since now been saying, you know what, I don't want to do radio anymore. My now life goal, at least in this season that God has me in, is helping women, and I can do this until my grave. Like I want to help as many women. So I'm like, I want to build this up to where it's financially stable. I can live off of this, live the dream life, never have to work for anybody ever again, while blazing a trail of all of these women who really know that, that they are worthy.
So you feel like one of the reasons why you stepped away from radio full time is because you wanted to fulfill your purpose of being a life coach and being a mentor to young women or women in general?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that is that. So again, I told you I was in radio since Howard, and the last 2 years really has been a shaking of my foundation and what was it that I was going to do for the next, season of my life, right? So we're in our late 30s now, so it's like, so I'll turn 38 in June, so I'm 37 and a half.
Okay.
But yeah, I was like, do I really want to be a radio personality at 55? And my business came from, unfortunately, I was in an emotionally abusive relationship for 2 years, and I got out of that in 2017, and that catapulted me on a journey of figuring out why I would allow that to happen. Like, I thought I was a good person. I thought I was smart. I went to Howard. I have a 2-parent household. Like, I thought I was a smart person. Mm-hmm. And so I really went on this spiral of really hating myself and like, why would I allow that? I'm so stupid, thinking I was the only one who would do something like that, into forgiving myself and then trying to learn the lesson that I was to learn. And so that's why I say the past, so I guess it would be since 2017, end of 2017, because I went on a solo trip to Mexico. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that started this shift in me the shaking of my core about what is it that you want to do? Do you want to be a radio personality at 55 talking about the Kardashians, or do you want to put something more of substance into the universe? And that's not a knock on anybody, you know? I mean, I know Elvis Duran, Angie Martinez, all of them are getting up there as radio personalities, and I love what they do, and they have a lot for the ecosystem and for the Black community and stuff. But I had to start asking, was that something that I wanted to do? 20-year-old me, yes. I wanted to be Angie Martinez and Wendy Williams. 38-year-old me, almost 38-year-old, no. I was like, I can't, I have to find something else. And so when I found it, which is being a life coach to single women, I was like, oh, I could do this forever. I love it. I love the work that I'm doing, the growth that I see in my clients, the growth that I've had in myself, and just something that's deeper. It's beautiful. I love it. Absolutely. So I used to, when I first started my coaching and I got certified and everything, I called it Singleness University, because I felt like my program was like a school. And this is where you come to discover your worth so that you can stop tying your identity to men. And it's still that, but then I shortened it to Single You. So I have Single You Academy, which is my coaching program. And then my podcast is Single You, the podcast, right? Like, so I'm just, it's a branding thing to keep all of that together. But absolutely, my coaching program, my podcast stem from me being in that relationship. Because again, I had to go on this journey to figure out why I would allow a man to disrespect me as such. Why would I do that? So he broke up with me in June of 2017, saying that he couldn't trust me. Mind you, he was cheating on me the whole time. So that's called projection and narcissism and all that. But at the time, I didn't know terms. I didn't know abuse. I thought abuse was just somebody hitting you, right? Like, you grow up kind of knowing that, but so outside
he was more like gaslighting you, like
gaslighting.
Yeah.
Yes, he was a narcissist, and all of that from my own self-diagnosis of him. I don't know where he is today. I don't know if he's gotten help. I don't know if he is actually a narcissist, but from what I've read, my certification, the psychology books I'm reading, that is definitely what I believe that I went through with him. And so after he broke up with me, I, like I said, went on a journey of really hating myself, and then acceptance, and then trying to figure out what can I learn from this. So I actually went on a solo trip in December of 2017. So Christmas Day 2017, I'm sitting on the beach in Mexico, in Puerto Vallarta, having a good time by myself, watching all the, like the Mexicans selling their stuff, the people on vacation. Like, it was so fun. And when he, in June of 2017, actually the day that he broke up with me, I felt like God told me, and I didn't hear him in an audible. I don't hear God in audibles, but I felt like in my being there was a knowing. So I'm a Christian, obviously, I guess. But I felt like God told me, I will use this story. And at that time, I didn't know what that meant. I was like, I ain't telling nobody this story. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm embarrassed. Shame was setting in, right? Like, I'm not telling anybody I would allow this to happen to me. Me? No. But then when I went to Mexico, things started aligning, and I had brought 2 books with me. And one of them was The Purpose-Driven Life by Pastor Rick Warren. And the other one was actually Gabrielle Union's book, We're Gonna Need More Wine. And so, and I think I even bought that book at the airport, Gabrielle's book, because I think at that time it was new. And then I was like, I should probably bring books because maybe I'll get bored. I don't know, because I was going by myself, right? It was my first time going on a trip by myself. And the first book I read was Gabrielle Union's book. And I was reading the book like, did Gabrielle write this book about me or her? I'm so confused. Like, because our story was the same. 2-parent household, her childhood was a little bit more rocky than mine, but anyway, her theme throughout her book was she never really got the lessons and the teachings on what makes a healthy relationship versus unhealthy relationship. She never really got the teachings on how to figure out who you are, what you want, purpose before marriage, all of these things that are tools for you to live a better and happier, healthy life. She never got it. So she I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Gabrielle Union was married before. She was married to Dwayne well before. I think it was another basketball player. She was abused. She had been through a lot of abusive relationships. And her story resonated with me. And I was like, oh my God. So that started to break down the shame, because then I started to realize, oh, I'm not the only woman who's been through something like this. And if Gabrielle, as beautiful as she is, as smart as she is, can unfortunately allow this to happen, that means I'm not a dumb woman. I just made some choices that, didn't aid to my well-being. So I read that, and then I read The Purpose-Driven Life. And in that book, Pastor Rick Warren talks about your greatest shame will be the thing that heals others. And all of that kind of tied into, like I said, that knowing in myself when he broke up with me that God said he will use my story. So I was like, oh my God, what does that mean? And then when I returned, January of 2018 is when I first started talking about my breakup and what I had went through on my radio show. Because so all my listeners knew I had a boyfriend and he had been on my show before, this and that. And then for like 4 months, I just stopped talking about him. Because I was like, I can't tell nobody what I just did, like what just happened to me. And they noticed that.
Yeah. Did you feel like your viewers or listeners would treat you any different? Were you ashamed at the fact that your boyfriend actually broke up with you and you didn't want to, how can I frame it? Yeah.
I was embarrassed. It wasn't about treating me differently. It was you thinking I'm stupid. I can't tell Sonny I would allow a guy to treat me like this, because now Sonny's going to think I'm stupid. So that shame definitely shut my voice up. I mean, there were times when I would, during commercial breaks, tell my co-host, like, I'll be right back. And I'd go in the bathroom and like cry. I was just going through a lot. Like that stuff hurts, right? Like it hurts. And so it wasn't until, January of 2018 where I was like, I need to get this out. And not only did I start talking about it, I started blogging about it. And that's when I started getting my message out. And that's when the relationship with my listeners changed to a deeper connection. So I used to, my listeners would be like, oh my God, Reka, you're so funny. What you said about Kim Kardashian was hilarious. Blah, blah, blah. Then I started getting messages about, Reka, I read your blog and oh my God, I've been through the same thing or whatever. And then there was this one girl, and I have her message that she sent me on my wall in one of my rooms in my house. And she told me that the day that her boyfriend beat her so bad, she was in the hospital. The doctors told her her rib was broken. On that day, that is the day that she decided to listen to me, because she had been reading my blogs and kind of following my story in secret. I didn't know who she was. And that was the day she was like, I'm going to do what Reka told me to do, what she would want me to do. And she left him. And it's been now 3 years. We're friends on Facebook now. And I check in with her, and she's on her own. She's healed. She's working on herself and stuff like that. So when she sent me that message, I was like, I have to turn this into something else. And so that answers your original question. So yeah, Single You Academy, Single You the podcast, it all aligns with that message of we got to stop tying our identity to men, because that'll set you up for failure every single time.
What advice do you give to women or young women who are currently facing the same situation as you were previously in 2017, or actually years prior, because you was with him for a couple of years?
Mm-hmm. So if they are me and they are exiting a relationship like that, you have to ask yourself, there were 3 questions that I asked myself. Who do I say I am? Who does God say I am? And how do I want to show up from now on in this world? And I brought a journal with me as well as those 2 books. And I started asking myself a lot of questions because I wanted to figure out why I would allow this. And ultimately, the answer was, well, there was a couple of reasons, but definitely nobody had a conversation with me about what makes a healthy relationship versus unhealthy. And this is not to throw my parents under the bus. I love them. They're still married. They have a wonderful relationship. They're just baby boomers. Who's talking about that stuff? Nobody. That generation is like, girl, just pray about it. You be all right. There was no deep conversations, and they didn't understand psychology back then and all of that, right? Definitely not therapy. No, and never that, right? So nobody had those conversations. And I thought through what I was watching, society, church, on my podcast, actually dropping this week. I had a conversation with my pastor, who is now, I didn't grow up in his church, but we had that conversation about what I wish the church told single women. But anyway, so I used to tie my identity to men because I thought that made me a better Christian. Like once you get married and you start having babies, oh, that's when God really loves you. You got the goal, girl. Yes. And I had to shift my focus that is not the goal in life. The goal is to have a happy and healthy life and to figure out your purpose while you're here, right? And whether that is a life where you do get married and have kids, great. If it isn't, great. And the Bible talks about that as well. There's beauty in marriage and beauty in singleness. So that is definitely what I would tell a girl who is getting out of a relationship like that. You got to figure out your whys and what you want. For girls who are younger and maybe haven't experienced that yet or haven't dated, I would tell them you got to figure out, again, your whys and what you want. It's the same for both. One has a journey of doing a lot of healing. The other one has a journey of doing a lot of finding. Like I have to figure out who I am. It's purpose before marriage. And you got to figure out how you're going to live out this life and how you want to do that. And then say no to everything else that doesn't aid, to that doesn't get you to that goal. So.
Okay. My next question, do you feel like at age 37 that you found your self-identity and your purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I know who I am today. I think that we're always growing. If you're not growing, then you're dead. And I don't want to stop growing. I don't want to stop learning and actually having clients. I got my first client in November, December of 2019. And this journey with them has even grown me even more. Things I never had been through or thought about and stuff. And all the reading, excuse me, all the reading that I've been doing and watching their journeys and their growth. Like I'm even different than I was when I first started blogging in January 2018, right? So definitely still growing, but my core values, the core of who I am, oh, I know without a shadow of a doubt. It is so much easier to figure out who's for me and who's not for me.
And speaking of who's for you and who's not for you, do you want to get married and have kids someday?
I am down for whatever God has for me. So I no longer feel like that's the goal, the American dream, white picket fence with their husband. I am really just in a place where I'm like business or nothing. Like I'm building my business by any means necessary. And that's my true focus. And I've definitely been on a men fast for the past 2 years and not really talking to anybody and all of that. And so we'll see what this year brings. COVID is here. So I'm like, and the community I live in, I'm like, I'm not dating at all. But I will welcome that if it's God's will for my life. But no, I don't have to have it. And kids, I'm getting older. So I don't know if I get to 50 and God drops a 12-year-old in my lap or he wants me to adopt a child, then I will do that. So I'm open to the possibilities.
A couple more questions, Reka. What is the feedback that you have gotten from your clients or listeners for both your podcast and your radio work?
So for the work that I'm doing with obviously my message and Single You, there's so many messages I get. I'll read you one that I got yesterday from just a young lady listening to my podcast, because I believe that you can heal through any means. I don't have to be your coach. I do want you to go on the journey. Maybe it's just listening to my podcast for you, or maybe it's one-on-one. I have one-on-one clients too, where we get on Zoom and we do these meetings weekly. But this particular young lady sent me a message and she goes, "Oh my God, Reka, I'm listening to your podcast today and holy crap. My ex didn't like me either. It was so hard. And the only things that he liked were my looks and my bedroom skills. He legit tried to change everything else about me. And I'm still broken from that experience. And frankly, I don't even want to try to be in a relationship." And then she messaged me on Instagram and we had a conversation about healing, because I don't want you to be in a space where you hate all men. Just because you go through a few things doesn't mean it's everybody. And so I'm hoping that she'll be a client soon, because you as a client, we all have to get to the moment where we're like, you know what, I'm ready for this healing journey. But I get messages like that all the time. One of my clients out of Atlanta, she was like, yo, because of what you have the homework you have given me, what we've been talking about, I know now I will be breaking the generational curse that was put on me by my parents with my daughter. My daughter will not go through what I went through with men. And she was just very thankful. She said the best investment I made in myself in 2020 was joining Single You Academy. And that's all I can ask for. So if they do the work that I give them, change will happen. Change will happen 100%. I say that I'm not a dating coach. I am a self-love coach. I want you to get to a point where you love yourself enough. You get to a point where you understand that singleness is not a punishment. You get to a point where you understand that you're worthy, regardless of your relationship status, to where you know that you don't have to date if you don't want to. The desire, I get it, is there for most of us because we're human and God puts that in us and stuff. But I don't teach you how to date. I teach you how to love yourself. So that's why I say I help you discover your worth so that you can stop tying your worth and identity to men. Whatever you do after that is going to be beautiful, because the best foundation for any relationship is for two people to understand they're coming into this relationship as two whole people. And then you go from there. This is not Jerry Maguire, you complete me. That's a lie. I hope to see it forever. I hope one day Oprah sees my book and it's Oprah's book club, or I'm invited on GMA to talk self-love tips and stuff. And so I just see it growing, especially as I grow and get older, that people, women see me as a light, like, oh, you can do this life single. And even if I do end up getting married, it's, oh, you can have purpose in your single season and then get exactly what you want inside of a relationship. Because a lot of us are sitting here settling, right? Because we want to be with somebody so bad, and we think that's the goal, or we're lonely and we don't really know why and stuff. So we settle. I don't want anybody to settle. I want everybody to know who they are, know what they want, have the audacity to believe that they can get it, and the patience to wait for it. Imagine how this world would be so much different if none of us settled.
It's a lot of people, especially with this COVID, their relationships and marriages are being exposed because they're spending more time at home. So that is a blessing and a curse. So you're not wasting anybody's time.
They can no longer hide at their jobs or somewhere else. I mean, I've heard married people say, unfortunately, like they don't even want to go home when they were working. But now, now that they're sitting in front of each other's faces, you're either going to be getting a divorce at the end of this, or your relationship will be better.
Yeah, getting stronger. Yes.
Yes and no. So the message is the same. Singleness is not a punishment. Know who you are, know what you want, have the audacity to believe that you can get it, and the patience to wait for it. But in the book, I talk about my abusive relationship, also my $10,000 boyfriend. Yes, I had a guy cost me $10,000. And then I have, it's a compilation of all of the questions that I have been asked by women from Facebook, and their relationship dilemmas. Because on my radio show, when I was doing mornings, I used to have a relationship segment. So if you wanted to ask a question about your relationship, you would either call in or send me a message on Facebook. And I still had all of those messages, and I was like, yo, I should make this a book so women can have a tangible tool, right? Like, we say a lot of things like, oh girl, you just need to love yourself, or oh girl, you wait, your Boaz is coming. Oh, but what does that stuff really mean? As Drake says, know yourself, know your worth. What does that really mean, right? So through those stories and through those questions that I would get, I break down my answer and then why I gave the answer, hoping that anyone reading it will see maybe a scenario in my book that matches with what they're going through, and they can get advice from me without even really knowing me or being a client.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, Miss Reka Robinson, for joining Feedback the Magazine today. I enjoyed this interview, and I want to wish you good luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I appreciate you. I'm honored. Hey, Bison.
Oh yeah, we fellow Bisons. We gotta support each other.
Right, exactly. Bison helping Bison. So I appreciate this. Anybody who is willing to let me speak about my message, like I hold them dear to my heart, and they'll be part of my story. So when I am on Oprah, I can be like, yeah, my first 2 years in business, I was on this podcast, this magazine, this, and this. So you are all part of the sauce that is going to elevate this message to even higher levels.